Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this June the 16th Board of Directors meeting for the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority. We have in front of us our agenda. Is there any changes or any additions that anyone would like to make to the agenda? I'm hearing or seeing none. Just one moment. Just to let you know, our CAO, Chandra, has shown up. Did you have some car problems this morning, did you say?
No, Tesla never did.
Teslas have no car problems, okay, apparently. Do they work well in rain? Yeah, okay, good. We're going to begin and we'll do the roll call. So, Mr. Baval, could you do the roll call, please?
Here.
Chair, we're not hearing the roll call.
Test. Good. Sorry. So, Member Cridland?
I'm here on Zoom, thanks.
Member Grant? Member Houston?
Present.
Vice Chair Metcalf?
Present.
Member O'Neill?
Present.
Member Seaborn?
Present.
Member Tattison?
Present.
And of course, Chair Foster.
I'm here. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest this morning? Hearing or seeing none. The first item of business this morning is the approval of our minutes. They are the minutes of the full authority meeting from May the 19th, 2023, and the closed session minutes of the full authority meeting of May the 19th, 2023. Can I get Member Clark to move that we receive those minutes? And Member Cridland, would you please second that? Any discussion? Hearing none. Is there anyone opposed to us receiving these minutes? Hearing or seeing none. Thank you. Chair's update. So besides our CAO having car problems this morning, that was going to be my lead-in. Yeah, the talk of the day. Got some information yesterday, and I thought I would share it with the board. First of all, for the last couple of years, we have had some pretty key individuals who have sort of guided us as we've gone through a variety of things. They've been able to bring things into perspective for us. They've been able to stabilize areas such as, well, I will say clerking, I will say other pieces of the puzzle within the NPCA. And so sort of both, I suppose, good for Grant but bad for us. Grant has decided that he's going to be leaving the NPCA. So Grant, on behalf of the board, I want to thank you for all of the work that you've done over the last couple of years. You have brought, as I said, stability in an area that we needed it. And you know, from my perspective, this is a big loss for us here. So, Grant, thank you for all you've done. Okay. So, I believe we can. But what if we said no? What would you say? Ship has sailed. Anyway, thank you, Grant, for all that you've done. Okay. Correspondence. We have 3 pieces of correspondence this morning. dated May 18th, June the 11th, and the correspondence from the town of West Gwillimbury that's dated June the 9th. Does anyone wish to speak to any of these items separately? Hearing none, can I get Councillor Hewson to, we'll go with Councillor Hewson to move, and Councillor Metcalf, can you second that, please, that we receive these reports? Any questions or any comments to any of these? Hearing none, all those who are opposed, please let us know to receiving these. And that is carried. Yep. Yep, that's good. Presentations. So this morning we do have a presentation from Natalie Green, who's our Manager of Climate Change and Special Programs, regarding the Niagara River Remedial Action Plan. So Natalie, please go ahead.
Good morning. Thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Wonderful. Good morning. Thank you, Chair and board members, for this opportunity to share with you our progress over the last 5 years. So one of the programs that I manage here at the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority is the Niagara River Remedial Action Plan. And while tremendous progress has been made over the last, over 35 years since 1988, I'm only focusing today on the last 5 years of progress. So the Niagara River, of course, everybody here should know the Niagara River, and it's beautiful, probably most well known for its beautiful drop in elevation, resulting in the Niagara Falls. It is quite a unique natural resource. It's one of only 5 connecting channels in the Great Lakes system. It is a source of drinking water, recreation, and natural and cultural heritage, and it sustains people and wildlife across this area, and also provides a lot of economic benefits for tourism in this area as well. However, due to the human exploitation over the last number of years since European settlement, the Niagara River has in the past become quite degraded, and we are making a lot of progress in restoring and improving water quality and ecosystem health in the Niagara River. In the late 1980s, the Niagara River was listed as one of 43 areas of concern across the Great Lakes Basin. They're all shown here on this map. In Canada, there were 17, and the Niagara River is one of 5 binational, as I mentioned earlier. Progress is being made, and as you can see on the map, so some of the symbols are showing the stars of locations that have been able to achieve all remedial actions and have been considered delisted or removed from this list of areas of concern. And that is the goal of remedial action plan teams, is to make changes to water quality and ecosystem health to try to remove locations from that list. So a bit of information on the Niagara River area of concern itself. The geographic scope of the AOC, or area of concern, is the Niagara River itself, flowing from Lake Erie north to Lake Ontario. It is the 58-kilometer connecting channel. The main issues in the Niagara River are water quality and habitat loss, and have been since the 1980s, when it was first listed as an area of concern. I've already mentioned that it's one of 5 binational Great Lakes areas of concern. And there is a remedial action plan that guides local efforts on each side of the river. So it is binational efforts, but but there are different plans on both sides of the border, because there are slightly different issues on both sides, and there's different government agencies participating. But we do work together with our U.S. partners and collaborate when we can, and make sure that we are communicating and collaborating as much as possible, because it is a shared resource, and we do that work with all of our partners. So in the late 1980s, through the Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement, the concept of remedial action plans was first noted in that 1987 version of the Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement, which commits Canada and the US to work together to protect and restore the Great Lakes ecosystem. So one of the annexes in that agreement speaks to remedial action plans and the need to improve particular locations across the Great Lakes Basin. The term remedial action plan is actually used quite interchangeably, so it does refer to the plan or the program that we are working together towards improving and restoring water quality and ecosystem health in a particular area of concern. But we also use that term to describe the partnership. So the remedial action plan, because environmental restoration involves a lot of different partners, and it's no one organization's role to improve the environment, we refer to the remedial action plan or the team as all of these different organizations. And the logos here represent the representative organizations and a lot of dedicated citizens that participate in the RAP as well. The NPCA, given its role in watershed-based resource management, including ecosystem restoration and community stewardship, which is the foundation of our program, has been leading and coordinating remedial action plan activities and the program since 1999, with funding from Canada and Ontario. All right, so as part of the remedial action plan and in that Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement, it speaks to restoring 14 potential impairments that are linked to human, ecosystem, or economic benefits that need to be addressed through a remedial action plan. So the symbols and names that you see on this slide are referencing all of the 14 different indicators. And we use these impairments or indicators to guide our monitoring activities, our restoration efforts, and to track progress in a local area of concern. So each remedial action plan team has the same list of indicators. Not all areas of concern have the same issues, kind of like students in a classroom, how we're evaluated on a particular set of targets, so literacy or math. This is the same concept. So different areas of concern can struggle in different areas. And I'll show you the progress that we're doing in a couple of slides. So 5 years ago, our remedial action plan team, when it became reestablished in 2017, 2018, the committee had decided to update its delisting plan or delisting strategy. This is an implementation plan. So we initiated this process of updating what we knew about the remaining impairments in the Niagara River. We really worked hard to update and address those impairments with very specific, what we call delisting criteria. So these are our goals for each of those impairments. What do we want to achieve in the Niagara River to represent water quality and ecosystem health? And then we identified with the partnership all of the targeted actions for implementation for 5 years, so between 2019 and 2023. So when we were developing this plan, we were actually implementing as we were going as well. So the plan itself was fully completed in 2021, though the process started a couple years before that because it was quite a large undertaking. But we're very pleased with this document and how it's been guiding the remedial action plan team, really keeping us on track, giving us that tool to be able to say, well, these are the actions that we need to focus on, and being able to measure those as well. So we're very pleased with this document, and we use this to report our progress, which you'll see in the next slide. So currently, out of that delisting strategy came 77 very targeted actions. And the last time I checked, which was at the beginning of this year, so we review this document every single year and note how we are doing on particular actions. So we know that we've made already 91% of our actions are completed or in progress. So we're doing a terrific job, given that we just started 5 years ago. So what a terrific thing to share with the board today is our tremendous progress that we can only do with all of our partners. Very exciting. This year, so the document, as was a 5-year plan, and it ends in this year. So we are with our RAP team in the fall going to be reviewing the document and updating it and creating a new 5-year plan to guide us. And so the actions that are not completed now will be then moved over, and we may update and tweak some things as we go, as we have learned a lot through implementing our delisting plan over the last 5 years. So those set of symbols, as I mentioned earlier, help us determine what we need to focus on and help us track how we're doing. So of the list of 14 potential indicators that the Niagara River could potentially have issues with, we have 10 that are not impaired, which is tremendous and quite the great news. And we have 4 that are currently impaired. And I think it was in March, I reported to the board that one of these would just recently change from impaired to not impaired. So the beach closings, beneficial use impairment, shown at the bottom here, is now been changed to green. So we are focusing our efforts right now on these remaining 4, and the next iteration of the delisting strategy will also focus on those 4 remaining impairments. So our priorities for 2023, and when I say our, I mean the Niagara River and all of our incredible partners and groups that are working together on this project through this program. The first thing that we're prioritizing for this year, towards the end of the year, is updating our delisting strategy. We are pulling together an assessment report for the Fish and Wildlife Populations Indicator. We're hoping to have that done probably this summer and then going out to our partners and the community in the fall of 2023. Habitat, we have made tremendous progress on habitat, and as the board is likely aware, we have 1 more wetland to be completed. All of the coastal wetlands that we are targeting for the remedial action plan are done. We're finishing Gonders Flats wetland, which is currently underway. We had some challenges with the weather this past fall and winter, but the contractors are back on site. We're hoping to have that completed, construction completed and small and in the summer, and everything planted in the fall. An assessment will be planned at that time as well. So we're looking to showcase all of the work that we've done on habitat restoration. And then the last main priority right now is the benthos indicator. So that speaks to sediment contamination. And there's 1 remaining site in the watershed. So it's circled here. There were 14 contaminated sediment sites listed in the early 1990s when the remedial action plan was first getting off the ground. They were sorted out into level 1, 2, and 3. Level 1 sites, there were only 4 of them, and they required more cleanup. All of those have been dealt with, except for 1 was left as, you know, we could leave the contaminated sediments in sight. There's PCB contamination at Lions Creek East. The decision with the public at that time, and through a lot of scientific research and evidence, was that the best course of action in the early 2000s was to leave those contaminated sediments in place, and that we would continue with our partners to do monitoring, long-term monitoring at that site. So this is the only remaining contaminated sediment site. So we are focusing on this location for the next 5 years because it's really a priority for the area of concern. So just a little bit of detail on this particular location. It is called Lions Creek East. It is a tributary of the Welland River. Lions Creek was bisected when the Welland Canal was constructed in the 1970s. It is a tributary of the Welland River, and it's made up of a series of marshy ponds that are considered provincially significant wetlands. The site is in the Niagara River watershed, which is not technically the area of concern, but it is hydrologically connected to the Niagara River, and this is why we're still including it as part of the area of concern work and remediation that needs to get done through the remedial action plan. So I mentioned this earlier, there is a historic source of PCB contamination, so polychlorophenol biphenyls, PCBs, that were broadly used in the 1940s. It contaminated a portion of the creek, so closer to the canal. It is the last contaminated sediment site. We've been monitoring it with Environment Canada and the MECP for over 15 years as per the selected sediment management option, which was selected back in 2008. We now have scientific results that indicate that natural recovery, so leaving those sediments in place, has not achieved what we thought it would in some areas of the creek. So some areas are showing signs of recovery and are doing quite well. Others are not. So just briefly, this is a map of the targeted area of Lions Creek. So Lions Creek extends quite a ways down toward the Welland River. We are focusing on it's approximately 7-kilometer stretch between the Welland Canal and McKinney Road. So it's shown here and separated in zones. The cleanup is recommended in zones 1 to 4. So this is the area from the Welland Canal. This is Highway 140, if you're familiar with the area, and Buckner Road. So this area, zones 1 to 4, is where natural recovery is not occurring. So scientists are recommending some sort of intervention. So either sediment cleanup of some sort, whether that be dredging, capping, or a combination of both. We're not sure what the best course of action is right now. We have to do a bit more work, and that's where the NPCA comes in. Results show that in zone 5, so this yellow area from Buckner Road to Dones Ridge Road, is actually showing natural recovery. It is slow, and we do think that it's slow because of these upstream sources, so water flows this way. And then zone 6 and 7, recovery has been achieved in these areas. So that is great news, and no remediation is required in zones 5 through 7. So now, this past year, maybe it was 2022, the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority did receive funding from the Government of Ontario and Environment Canada to start the engagement, to start the planning, to try to figure out what our sediment cleanup options are going to be. So we started this last year with some monitoring, information gathering, data compilation, and synthesis. So what you saw in those previous slides with the results is a result of our data analysis in 2022. Beginning in the spring of 2023, we've started engagement and outreach. So we've been doing Indigenous engagement, briefings with senior management on at Environment Canada, MECP, and at NPCA as well. And then we are currently pulling together a report that will show the results that we've seen from the monitored natural recovery approach, and the reasoning why we want to move from a more passive approach to something that's a bit more active. On May the 30th, we hosted a public information center, which was quite well received. There was a lot of interest. Over 60 people attended the public information center that was held in Welland at the Flatwater Center in Welland, which is not far from the location. Lots of residents in the area came to ask questions. They received a presentation. There were poster boards. Overall, the feedback was really positive. People were very happy that we were proactive in coming to the community and saying we've got results and we want to share them with you, and that we are engaging them and communicating early in the process, that we're sharing information before a decision has been made. And our commitment is to continue communicating with the community, with Indigenous partners, with other stakeholders to help support decision making so that we are considering all feedback as we move forward. So what we're doing now for next steps, the summer this year and into next year, we are planning an ecological study, a sediment bait and transport study, and a sediment coring study. So that is happening now, and that's to help inform what our options might be for cleanup. So that will happen more towards the fall of 2024, trying to figure out what the cleanup options might look like, what other processes we may have to follow. And we're hoping to have a sediment management option selected in the fall, winter of 2024. And we will host another public information center between when we have draft options and before a decision is made. So I've talked about this a little bit. Again, very positive. Our efforts will continue. As you can see in the image here, there were a lot of people at the Public Information Center, and we're really happy with how it went. And we're excited to have these connections made with the community and be able to share information. And a lot of the people that were there were actually involved in the decision-making process in 2008. So I thought that very positive as well, that people were very well informed and very well engaged. If you would like to learn more about this project, because this is our main focus right now, I encourage you to visit the NPCA's Get Involved online engagement portal. So the website is located there, getinvolved.npca.ca, and you can navigate to the project tile for Lions Creek. Thank you again so much for this opportunity, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Great presentation, Natalie. Any questions from any members of committee at this time? Go ahead, Donna.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, first of all, Natalie, thank you for that great recap. I think you pretty much covered it when you talked about the types of ways the citizens are certainly being engaged, and the value of, the feedback part of it. If in general, if there are any other maybe one or two examples of other types of participation that you've seen through the last 5 years, just anecdotally, just how other ways that we're using citizens to help us with these amazing goals. So if there's something at the top of mind that you can share, that's great. Otherwise, I know that last slide, get involved, is where we all can start helping. So thanks again for the work.
Thank you, Member Cridland. Through you, Chair. Yes, so citizens are involved on our committees, but they can get involved through community stewardship events. So when we do a planting of Gonders Flats, for example.
Natalie, we are seeing you speaking, but we're not hearing you at the moment. Do you want to just check your connection?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Oh, no.
We can hear her.
Oh, okay. So
it's just the room, I guess.
What's that? It's just the room? Oh, you guys can hear her okay?
We can hear her okay, yeah.
Okay. We can't hear you in here, so continue speaking, and all of those other people online will hear your great answer, and we'll just try and read your lips, okay?
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to mention, thank you, Member Cridland. If anybody is interested in participating in Remedial Action Plan events, they could sign up to our newsletter as well. So more information is on our website, niagarariver.ca. We do have a monthly e-newsletter with opportunities to get involved and engaged. And I'm hoping to see a lot of people at the Gonders Flats planting in the fall. That'll be a really great way to participate. And in Lions Creek project itself, yes, I highly encourage people to visit the Get Involved portal, and there's opportunities for engagement and more involvement there as well.
Thank you.
And thank you. We did hear that, by the way. So, any other questions? Please go ahead, Member Tattison.
Hi, Natalie. Thanks for that presentation. Up here in the headwaters of the Welland River by the Hamilton Airport, we have some concerns with PFOS. Is that making its way down to the Niagara River in any way that you're aware of?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Not that I'm aware of. There hasn't been any reports of it making its way all the way down to the Niagara River. And we do have quite a comprehensive monitoring program in the Niagara River. It's called the Upstream Downstream Program, with a suite of chemical contaminants that they measure for the last 30 years or so. So as far as I understand, no, but we could look into it if you would like as well.
No, it's just a question that I've always had to see how far it reaches down the Welland Creek system, because it is an issue at the conservation area in Bimbrook. So I just wanted to know if that was where it stops or if it continued onward and it was a problem for you, but it doesn't appear to be, so that's good news.
Member Tattison, we do have Josh Diamond on the call. Josh, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Good morning, Chair. I don't have anything more to add about the Niagara River. Natalie is correct. There is the upstream downstream program that exists there, and Natalie explained that. I do believe the PFAS contamination does extend past Bimbrook in the creek. I just don't know. I don't know how much information is out there. Certainly, the NPCA doesn't have the information. Downstream, the water does continue flowing out of Bimbrook Reservoir and making its way down the Welland River. So the extent of that is maybe a question we'd have to pose to the ministry and get their input as to how far and the extent of that contamination. But it does extend past Bimbrook.
Okay.
Member Tattison?
Yeah, I just want to thank you for your answer there. I'm just and I know this is about the Niagara River, so I'm just concerned mainly, and I'll talk with Josh offline, just about the potential for the standards or the restrictions to go from basically parts per billion to parts per trillion. And I think that'll be a concern. I'll take that offline with him in the future. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Member Tattison. Anyone else with any questions? I do have one or two for you, Natalie. So you showed us the river section where essentially it's bad in one section and moving along. As you look to do remediation, is there danger when we're trying to do things that we're going to affect those areas that are good, if you want to put it that way? I'm just curious about that.
Thank you, Chair. So you mean, just for clarification, so do you mean in the Lions Creek area when there's going to be potential remediation zones 1 to 4 if it'll impact the downstream?
Correct, yep, correct.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So we will work with our partners to ensure proper mitigation techniques are put into place to ensure that what we're doing in zones 1 to 4 is not going to impact downstream. So we will have to do quite a bit of work around, silt curtains and those kinds of options. We may also do work in the dry. So that means when the riverbed is drier, or we can stop the flow because it is pumped into from the canal into Lions Creek. So we're going to look at all of those options to make sure that we're not impacting those downstream locations. Part of the ecological study as well is to take a look at where we need to ensure that we're protecting sensitive habitats and sensitive species. So that may change the way that we're doing that cleanup. So the time of year, the method used, and what's going to be put into place. Because the last thing we want to do is, through a cleanup, do more damage. Absolutely. Those will be considerations that we take very seriously.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, thank you for your presentation this morning. Are you going to stick around for the rest of the meeting? Or are you, and the reason is I have a question and other business for you. So, so can I get Member O'Neill and Member Seaborn to move and second the receipt of this presentation?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there anyone opposed to us receiving this? Seeing none, thank you very much, Natalie. I don't like this opposed thing. I suppose we should get back into the habit, since we're mostly here, of saying in favor. I always think in favor is so much more positive than anyone opposed. So we'll try that for the next couple and see how everybody does with that. Member Clark is opposed to that. Delegations. We have no delegations this morning. We have one consent item, and it's report number FA 2723, NPCA Brand Identity Guidelines. Jeffrey is going to be taking us through this. Is he here? Jeffrey's here. Oh, please, there he is. Morning, Jeffrey.
Good morning. Thank you, Board Chair. So we were excited last week to finally circulate internally an internal document on the revitalization of our new logo for the corporation, and this is part of our broader branding strategic plan. I believe a copy of the resource that we shared internally was also shared with the board. And just want to make you aware that this, these newly branded materials highlighted through the NPCA brand identity guidelines are resources that are available to all board members. So if you should require access to any of the materials featured in the guidelines, or if you have any questions, or if you're ever approached by external third parties as a board member, you can always refer them back to myself or my colleague Rob, and we would be more than happy to, help to liaise and make sure that we're using it in the most appropriate way, and to address any concerns or questions related to these new branding assets and the suite of products that we've developed in order to support that. So very short item this morning. I think the report itself, like the resource that we shared with you, speaks for itself, but if there's any questions about that, I'd be happy to take them this morning.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions to Jeffrey? By the way, just from your perspective on this, because as I went through it, everything looks really good. Is there any particular highlight that you want to point out to us, or outside of that, it speaks for itself?
Yeah, I know that it's been brought to the board before, like the discussion about how we arrived at the logo, but this is just kind of the finishing touches. We were really excited to be able to share this resource internally, and yeah, I don't have much more to add than that. I apologize.
Thank you.
Great.
Any questions? Seeing none, can I get Member Tattison to move that we accept this report? And Member Grant, can you second that, please? And this is for receipt. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried. Discussion items. So we have 3 discussion items this morning. The first is in regards to Section 28 permit signatory delegation. This is for approval this morning. Director Yates, this is your report. Would you like to provide some commentary on this?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can we hear me today? The microphone? Good. I did do a check. Today, the report before you is recommending delegated signatory to our Senior Manager, Environmental Planning and Policy, and our Manager of Planning and Permits. These are just for routine and minor permits at this time. Myself and Chandra Seo Sharma, we do have signatory authority for all types of works permits, and that will continue. So this is one way for us to look at our continuous customer service improvement. We do know that forthcoming there will be prescribed timelines for us to approve our permits. We are working closely with our municipal partners on their Bill 109 implementation. This is one way that we foresee helping them streamline that approval process on our permit end. We've been working to improve our policies and our processes, so this is just one additional tool to help us streamline the process and offer excellent customer service to the people of our peninsula. So before you today is recommendation for approval of that delegation.
Okay, thank you, Director Yates. Can I get a Member Cridlin to move that we approve this report, and can I get Member Clark to second that, please? Any questions to the report? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that is carried. Our second report this morning is from our friend on the Treasury side of things. Budget assumptions and process. We're already back into that again. So, Director Gagnon, can you please give us a brief overview of this particular report?
Thank you, Chair Foster. Certainly, this is a routine report that comes to the board annually, and it typically kickstarts the budget cycle. So a few sort of things to call your attention to that might be different this year than in years past. First off, the timelines are significantly advanced. So the budget, the operating and capital budgets will come to the board in September. Typically, that used to be November. Some of that is in response to our municipal partners also accelerating timelines at their end, so we need to be able to meet those. Now, we have not received budget guidelines from any of our municipal partners at this point in time, so that this budget assumptions document speaks to our adherence to the budget guidelines once they do come through from the municipal partners. That expectation from Niagara Region, their budget strategy, budget review committee of the whole is scheduled to occur in mid-July. You should know also that the CA Act amendments and new regulations will be incorporated into the 2024 budgets, as we've mentioned on and off in the last year or so. We've been positioning ourselves to be able to make sure that we're compliant with all of those new regulations. In terms of the way the report flows, the background section will give you some insight as to the assumptions and high-level methodology and considerations that we use when we're drafting the budget. So, for example, adherence to the OPSU collective agreement provisions and that type of thing, and some of the climate evaluations that we do. Pages 2, 3, and 4 provide some information on the new regulations and the CA Act amendments. Land securement is spelled out on pages 4 and 5. Strategic plan alignment follows that. And again, this same as in years past, we'll be doing, providing the board with an unfunded pressures list so that if we are successful in securing grant financing, and we continue to be very successful in that area, by the way, we'll be able to address some of those priorities without having to come back to the board because they've been approved at that level. Happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you, Lise. And so to put your report on the floor for approval, can I ask Member Metcalf to move that? And Member Hewson, could you please second that? Yep, thank you. Any questions to Lise? Please go ahead, Member Cridlin.
Thank you, through you, Chair Foster. Thank you for the report and the update, and again stressing that this is a routine report that we see, but we're getting ahead of the tight timelines. Mentioning that, I think I've noted that our next Finance Committee meeting is July 26th. So if there's any consideration for either needing an additional one or an earlier one, I'm assuming then you'll reach out and alert us so that we can perhaps help you continue to move this along at the speed that it needs to go. So just want to highlight that we're going to be receiving this as per routine at the Finance Committee, and anybody's welcome, any new members are welcome to attend that as well to see the process for this this first time. So again, thank you for the report.
If I may, through you, Chair Foster, we've discussed that we've had to move some of the timelines around in response to the acceleration, so that what we're proposing at this juncture is that normally these budget assumptions would come to finance first and then the board, but we didn't have the time to do that, so it's coming to the board for governance approval at this point. What we are proposing is that we move the Finance Committee meeting to early September, and then come to the board 2 weeks later for the budget submission all told. So the assumptions won't be coming to finance, I guess, in a long-winded way.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yep. Thank you, Member Cridland. Anything else? Okay, is there anyone else have any questions for Director Gagnon this morning? Seeing none, we have duly moved and seconded this. So all those in favor of approving this report? And that is carried. Next report is the agreements of services with municipalities as required under the Conservation Authorities Act. This is one of huge interest to all of us here at the NPCA. So I'm going to turn this over to our CAO, as I know she's been working diligently on this file.
Good morning, Chair Foster and members of the board. Of course, it's a collective effort. Both directors are all hands on deck. Both directors have been significantly involved in this. Director Yates and Dr. Gagnon, and Director Christie is also providing input with our senior management team as well. This report presents our draft service level agreement that will be circulated to municipalities for their legal review and execution as part of the 2024 budgets. We have developed this MOU in conjunction with other neighboring conservation authorities, so the MOUs and service level agreements are consistent to a point, for municipality, to make it easier for our municipalities. It is based on the inventory of services that you approved last year, and it is being discussed with municipal partners. They are providing input to that list of services. There will be a follow-up once the agreement is executed. It will come to the board for signatures. And just a reminder, under the Act, the regulation requires us to sign these MOUs with partner municipalities for only Category 2 and 3 services. So the levy allocation under mandatory services, Category 1 services, does not need an MOU to be signed with municipalities. So we will be working with our municipal partners. There is a couple of services that we think will fall under those Category 2 and 3 programs. And those discussions are ongoing with municipal staff at this level. So this is not the first time they are going to be seeing this. Deadlines for these things are critical. January 1st, 2024 is when executed MOUs have to be completed and posted online. And if in case we need an extension, the ministry needs to be informed and request needs to be made by October 1st. So by September 30th, we need to agree with our 3 partner municipalities that they are going to be funding these, and they have at least done a preliminary review of the MOU, and as part of the budget process, it is possible to execute these agreements by January. So that's the crux of this report. I will take any questions as they come. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, CAO Sharma. Are there any questions to the CAO at this point in time? Actually, I will ask Member Grant to move approval of this report, and Member Taddison, could you please second that? Thank you. Seeing no other questions at the moment, I'm curious to you, CAO Sharma. The lower tier municipalities seem to have more and more roles within the planning process. So I'm curious, as we get into MOUs, what type of requirements are going to be coming from lower tiers, or do we need to be having some sort of agreements in place with them?
Thank you, Chair. So as you know, we have been meeting with lower tier municipalities, and this allows us to sign agreements with lower tier municipalities as well, and it's articulated in this report. This will be circulated to lower tier municipalities, and MOUs will be updated as needed. As we make our rounds through our lower tier municipalities in Niagara, we've been providing them the inventory of services that we produced that was approved by the board. Now, as everybody is aware, the province has restricted conservation authorities to provide natural heritage services under the planning regime, and we will not be advocating for that. We are following the regulation. Beyond that, there is a range of services and work that conservation authorities carry out with lower tier municipalities, and we'll be willing to entertain that. I think the important part of our meetings is to bring lower tier municipalities up to speed on the kind of services and the range of expertise available within NPCA that we can provide to them. And to give you some examples of shoreline erosion control work that's well within our mandate, we update our shoreline management plans on a regular basis. They are scheduled to be updated in the coming years, including climate change. And shoreline erosion and flood control is something that we are building expertise to do that work, and will be available to our lower tier municipalities. I'm really pleased to give you another example where we are undertaking on a fee-for-service basis a natural heritage, a natural asset inventory and assessment for the town of Fort Erie. That agreement is in place, and that work has already begun. Restoration is another area that is very critical, and we already work with lower tier municipalities on restoration and stewardship type of projects. Within the planning regime, I think there is lots of data and analysis and the science that we can provide to our municipalities to help them make the right decisions, like watershed planning. watershed analysis, data management, data analysis. So we are getting ready to do all of that work. Monitoring is another area of expertise that NPCA has and is available to lower tier municipalities. In terms of our lands portfolio, parks, many conservation authority provide park management services to our municipalities, asset management services. So we'll be proposing that as well. Joint management agreement, we own the land, they manage, or they own the land, we manage. These are very common. I think it's happening in Hamilton as I speak with the other conservation authority. So we'll be proposing all those things, and they are already in possession of a list of services from NPCA.
Great, thank you very much. I don't see any other questions or comments at this point. So with that, all those in favor of approving this report? And that is carried. We don't have any committee reports at this time. We have no motions. Are there any notices of motion this morning? Seeing none. New business. CEO Sharma, is there anything you wish to bring up under new business this morning?
Chair, are we going to have a foundation update after this? Sorry, yeah, we will.
Part of new business, sure.
I would ask Member Cridland and Member Hewson to give us updates on the foundation, and I can then provide a few things.
Okay. So foundation, either Member Cridland or Member Hewson, do you wish to speak this morning on where we're at with the foundation?
I don't mind saying a few words.
Yeah, go ahead, Diana.
Sure. So the foundation has been continuing to meet. The priority for us has been to secure a new staff member in the development position. I understand there's been some challenges in terms of that process, but as we will carry on and continue with that effort. There's also been an interest in developing some support materials in terms of allowing us to move forward with some of our approaching donors in terms of providing some suggestions on where they might want to contribute and how much. I also have an update that I believe was suggested to be given in closed. Is that correct, Chandra?
She says yes.
Yes. Okay. So I'll reserve that update for that point. But I think things are moving along very well, and we're certainly having some encouraging feedback.
Okay, thank you, Member Hewson. Member Cridland, anything else?
No, thank you. That's great.
Great, thank you. So, back to CAO Sharma.
Thank you. Member Cridland is very generous. Member Cridland was out there with on a photo op with Knight's Archives. She forgets to mention. We're making some great stories on the foundation, and Member Cridland has been really active in helping us move things forward. We had a great story with Knight Archives supporting the foundation with an shredding initiative, and we had a little photo op there. So, Member Cridland, just thought I plugged that one in.
Thank you, CEO Chandra. It's hard to differentiate the fun part from the work part, I must say.
That's okay. I just want to remind, Member Taddison asked the question on PFAS, and I just want to update the board members and the public that NPCA, this issue has been very, very critical for us, and we have been criticized to, at some point in public, but we have reached out to the members of the community. We are at the receiving end of it. It's not our issue. It's an airport issue. It's a Transport Canada issue. It's the government issue. We are, as a landowner in Binbrook, in Hamilton, trying to do our best. You received a memo from staff highlighting a range of very effective actions that we have undertaken, ranging from monitoring the lake to putting effective public signage on our website and on land. I've met with members of the community to answer their questions and give them the information on NPCA actions. It is my understanding that yesterday or last week, I think it was yesterday, members of the community have reached out to media and they are preparing some sort of a documentary. We were approached by CBC that they wanted to go take a picture of our signs, the wonderful work we have done at Binbrook, and we let the media in. Later on, we realized it is a documentary being prepared for CBC Marketplace. So it was a surprise after the fact. And I just want to let the board members know that I hope the story comes out, and it comes out really appreciating the efforts as a public agency that NPCA is making to keep the people safe and still provide them the opportunity to enjoy the green space that we have. And there are no issues with water contact, as we know, and people continue to enjoy, wonderful facility that Binbrook has and the activities that we offer at Binbrook. We are hoping to see, we are going to reach out to CBC to ask for more transparency. When they do that, we would have allowed them anyways. And so we are looking forward to a positive outcome of this initiative, and we'll see where things land from there. But I wanted to keep the board members posted on this matter. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chandra. Anything else under new business anyone wishes to bring up this morning? I do have one item that for the CAO, and that is we passed at Niagara Region a motion that was received from the Great Lakes Mayor's Group concerning shoreline erosion. And there was almost kind of an implication within that motion that went through that, the United States seems to be the only ones doing anything with shoreline erosion. So perhaps maybe for our next meeting we could have a report talking about what the NPCA is doing in and around shoreline erosion and making sure that there's a true story being painted in and around our areas to make sure that this is not an area that is, it's an area that we've been actively involved in, and we need to make sure that's understood. So if that's okay with you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, absolutely. In fact, we were hoping that we can bring it to this meeting, but we ran out of time. Conservation Ontario, as you know, I sit on the board of Conservation Ontario now. I raised that matter at the board, and at their council meeting, they are bringing a report on Conservation Authority work along lake shorelines. It is a critical mandate of Conservation Authority, and we've done a lot of work along shoreline, and especially related to shoreline hazards. We are planning to bring a report back to the board at the next board meeting to detail all of that. So, and looking forward to working with the federal government. Like you see, we are the delivery agent on the RAP, and these are the kind of things we do with both levels of government. So we are hoping that this federal water agency and their action plan, whatever comes out of that, sees the Conservation Authority as important implementation bodies on the ground.
Great, thank you. That would be very much appreciated by the board. Anything else under new business from anyone? Seeing none, we do have a closed session this morning, so and there's so just one moment. Okay, so there's two items under closed session. One is published here, which is litigation or potential litigation. The second is personnel matters in and around the foundation. So with that, can I get Member Seaborn to move that we move to closed session? And Member O'Neill, could you please second that?
So seconded.
Great, thank you. All in favor? And that is carried. So just a reminder with closed session, if you're in a position where you have no one else listening / involved when you're online, and for here we will secure the room, but these are confidential matters, so with that, please deal with it accordingly as a member of this board. Thank you. And it will give us a few minutes here to just get everything set.